No 3D model, dude.
Yeah, I'm at the office today, so the camera works here. The camera in my
Fair enough.
house that doesn't work for some reason. So I can't see anything. Should I be seeing anything at the moment?
Say that again.
I don't see anything at the moment. Should I be seeing something? Oh, now I see things.
Now everybody sees things.
Well, that's a good point.
Hello, everyone.
Have you
Unless you
started the
start the
event then, Dom?
event. No, I did.
Oh, well, it's time anyways,
Yep.
isn't it?
Exactly.
All right.
There's some sort of playback going on here.
Oh,
Hi, Harry.
hello.
Right. Okay. Looks like we just about get everyone in, and we can get this up. This we're
YouTube.
going live on stream, and hopefully we've learned lessons and things are going to actually work this time. But I guess we'll kick off. So,
Yeah,
welcome everyone
find
to
out.
the March Madness MonoGame Crazy Show that we like to call our open hour session, where you, the community, can come and join us on stage and ask us questions, and we get to show you cool stuff and talk about what we keep doing at this foundation of ours and trying to make the best of MonoGame that it can be. So, if we kick off, I shall hold off to some of my teammates here. So we have a few updates going on with the bounties, and I believe Tom, you want to do a nice little intro to what's going on with Native this month.
Sure. Yeah. So after the last meeting, or the meeting last week that we had with the foundation, we discussed a little bit about how we were going to approach audio, and we've kind of decided the approach that we're going to take is F audio for the OpenGL slash desktop platform, not OpenGL, I guess Vulkan and desktop, and we're going to use X audio for Xbox and Windows on DX12. So I'm lifting the X audio implementation that I had for Xbox and I'm pulling it into the public repo so that we have that in the public repo now. I'm kind of cleaning up that commit at the moment to try to get that pushed into the current DX12 PR that I have open. With that in there, then we technically have a complete kind of back end there where we have SDL with X Audio and DX12. So we kind of have a complete back end at that point for at least that platform. Now knowing that the approach that we're taking, the big question with the audio was we wanted to try to improve our XAC support, and we thought we could basically feed into F Audio's XAC support, but how it's implemented, it doesn't allow us to switch out our different audio backends. It's kind of tied to F Audio, from what I can tell. So instead of trying to untangle that, we decided the best thing to do is not to worry about it. XACT is not critical for monogame support moving forward. It is an old tool. It's getting older by the day, and we don't see a big future in it. Uh, in our exact implementation is good enough. It could be better, and if we're going to improve it, we can make some improvements to it. But we're just going to continue to maintain our exact implementation for now that rides on top of whatever audio system is at the low level instead of one that has it integrated. So that's with that direction, that's kind of that lets me at least finalize what we are doing with audio to figure out what we're going to do on consoles as well. So with that, I should be able to get that into the PR today, and then that DX12 PR is pretty complete. I have a couple things I need to push to it because the some changes that need to happen for Xbox had to happen in the public repo because that's shared code, with no NDA concerns or anything, but it's code. It's all in the public repo for that. So I should be able to push that. I've noticed that there's a visual bug that we've seen in Vulkan as well, where the sprites are glitchy, and it's the exact same glitch is happening on Xbox, which suggests that the bug is not on the platform level code. It's kind of one level higher. So there's something going on there with our states and sprite batch, I think, and causing that. So I might take a moment and work on that. But I'd like to get the Xbox PR finalized so that the Xbox PR could be pushed into the Xbox repo, and we'll have a new native Xbox backend along with the DX12 backend. So in the public repo. So that's where we're at there. As soon as that is completed, then I can jump into PlayStation, which has other complications for, we can't use the uh, the net native AOT stuff on PlayStation for various reasons. So we still have to maintain our backend support for the old Mono backend as well as the our cross compiler brute backend. But that'll be the next step, is getting those done. So yeah, that's basically where we're at. I mean, there's other improvements to be made, and particularly on like the Switch backend that we did a couple months back needs some refresh at this point, but because there's some changes that happened in the public repo, but it's working well. So I'm going to focus mostly on PlayStation, then come back and kind of do another pass through all the platforms to kind of bring everything up to par, because there's definitely holes in places on those platforms where there's some things that are just not implemented, like occlusion queries are not implemented on Switch. Things that are not used as often. I think volume textures may not be implemented on Switch. So those are some things I'll have to go back and clean up. They were just never in the implementation to begin with. So that'll be my next task after all these things get completed. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Oh, good stuff. As obviously the native backend is almost arguably the future of MonoGame. It makes things simpler for us, and it makes things even better for yourselves, because you're getting even more deeper native access to the platform. And as we add more platforms in the future, maybe, it just widens those options. So additionally, what we have is some additional bounties which have been posted. These were noted in the actual minutes for this month's meetings. Dom, did you want to speak about the macOS and the ship model bounties that have been raised?
I can
Yeah,
speak
I
on it
think
as well.
Harry and Tom were discussing that after the meeting, but I could be wrong.
No. It's
Oh,
the line stuff that we
the yeah, it was the content pipeline moving it to native bounty. So that bounty's up there now too. It's basically the equivalent of what we did with the back end for the actual runtime, is the same thing for the pipeline, where we want to start transitioning from using a native library that has a C# wrapper on it, then referencing that C# wrapper from our C# code, instead just managing our own wrappers and having a native API to the low-level calls in native code for pipeline processing. That first PR focuses on replacing the existing texture importer with a new importer just based off of the STB image stuff, which is really good and covers almost every single format that you're going to care about in games. Replacing the old free image importer that's in there with that, and in that process, setting up a new kind of a native project to build that backend code for the pipeline. Eventually, all the native code for the pipeline will end up going to that one, potentially big assembly that has everything in it, so that it'll be less stuff to share. Whenever you're sharing stuff, there's not going to be 50 DLLs in there, and it'll be easier to I guess integrate new technologies, because we won't have to be chasing for where's a wrapper, how do we expose this here. It can all be handled at the native end. Also, it potentially gives us a little bit but a performance improvement in certain cases. So this is just the first step into that with that bounty.
That's one of the two bounties. I believe Simon wanted to talk about the other one first. The other one that's currently available is the one in regards to MonoGame sample. Recently, I switched over some Asim stuff to use a new NuGet. However, one of our samples now fails to properly load the model, and the model is distorted. So we have another bounty currently available to fix that, to figure out where the issue is coming from. It can be coming from all the way from the content processing stuff all the way to the something in modular. The way we handle importing stuff into the model. So
We seem to have lost Simon.
Yeah,
Oops.
I expected him to take over, but
I guess they didn't.
Yeah.
One of these
Who wants
months,
to take
this
over
will
then?
just work.
Oh, I guess he's delayed.
oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Welcome
Sorry.
back, Simon.
One of these months, this will just work and it will not fail. But this is not that month. Okay, so that's everything we got going on. So if there's no other questions posted so far, which I'm not seeing, then we shall get on with our main event. So, Harry, I shall stop this display, and if you want to switch to sharing your screen, we can highlight the main event.
Indeed, I will. Yeah, so I have been working on something curious. So currently we have the current setup for the content compilation system, which is you compile the content with MGCB, you edit the file that contains all the list of all the content your game uses with the MGCB editor. It always compiles with the game. You there are quite a few actual issues with that current system. So I thought I should implement something a little bit better. I shall share my screen now. I have some live demonstrations, and hopefully this will go appropriately the first try, and nothing will go wrong. So, I've been thinking of actually replacing the MGCB editor, the MGCB, and possibly even the two MGFX with a project which is with the content project which includes all of its inclusion and exclusion within code instead of having a data file. This allows us several advantages. One, we can actually have an actual content project which can reference NuGet packages, so no longer any issues with referencing external content imports or processors. They can be safely uploaded to the NuGet gallery and just referenced from there. We also get to some other interesting things. I'm going to first show you, then I'll talk about other interesting things as we get to them. So how does it work? First up, the folder structure of this project. I have prepared several content folders for demonstration purposes, and I will be changing over them as we go along. The content project is just one project file, our collector, and our program. The program, all it does is currently I just fill it with the arguments needed. The arguments are the same arguments you would expect to find in the content MGCB. They can also be passed by just passing the arguments to the content collector instead of passing the struct. This is just for convenience during our testing. I can much more easily change them than arguments. So let's go to the collector. The collector is basically like a game of the content project. So what would the game class be in the game project is our collector here. I don't have good naming conventions, and content compiler was already taken, so I chose this temporarily. We might change its name. So what does it have? Currently, you can overwrite check needs rebuild and passing a file path. This I set it to true to always rebuild any file we get when we started. This by default is just going to be doing the same thing MGCB editor was doing with creating stuff in the object folder. Other than that, I have the collect content method, which currently just returns a content collection. I'll switch over to the content project and run it. Right now, if I run it, we go.
It's just
Nothing
thinking.
happens. Yeah, it's a little bit slower. Though now it's in RAM. So right now I have it set up to use the content fun. Nothing happened. What is in content fun? Content fun contains the platformer 2D sample assets. So we have some textures, we have some fonts, some level text files, some sounds. So the usual stuff a game would have. So how do we include them? Well, inclusion of stuff is pretty simple. All you do is something like this. So in this case, we can call the include method with the regex rule and pass in the dot. In regex, dot means anything is fine. So if I save this and now rerun it, it will include every file in that folder. And as we can see, it's starting building everything. And I can also show you here that it created the output folder and all the X and B files. You can also, instead of a regex rule, there is a wildcard rule. So instead of that, you can do the star. But for now, we're using the regex rule because wildcards in C# are little bit special in regards to implementation. There is no default implementation, and the semi-official Microsoft stuff that we can use are either referencing Visual Basic or PowerShell DLL, which is neither of those are preferential. Now, if we look at the stuff that we have built, you may notice that for example, text files, we unfortunately don't have any content importer or processor for them. And we did mention that we do want to actually copy them over. To do that, you can simply include a copy file. Include copy method allows you to pass a regex, and it will automatically copy over stuff to the same destination on the output. So if I now rerun our content project, instead of the building of the text files, it will instead just copy them over. And as we can see, it now copied over those selected text files. The regex here included is just searching for that .txt extension. Next up is I will switch us over to the content2 folder. In the content2 folder, it's the same samples platformer 2D sample. Except in this case, we also have the bin object folder and the mgcb and content pro files. These are what you would expect with the current setup, and maybe for some reason you want to have both setups available. So to do that, we would actually want to exclude those files, as by default, by including everything, we have included those files in our content compilation. To do that, you can simply exclude them using the exclude statement. You can also pass the regex rule or wildcard, and both include and exclude also have available in them the single file include and exclude in case you need to do that. So if I try to run this on the content2, it will build everything, and it will not for a moment try to include those couple of files we excluded. Now on to some other samples. Next up is the content sample number 3. In here, I have 4 images, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll delete the output folder because we no longer need it. And here I want to showcase the ordering of stuff. So the way this system works is it orders what it wants to do. So if we first include every PNG file in the folder, then exclude free.png and try to build this, it will build everything but the free.png file. If we do it the opposite way around and instead exclude free.png and then include every PNG file, it will build free.png. This is because all the rules are always going over all the files. It's not about when you exclude something that it gets removed from the list. It still exists in the list and can be overridden by the next rule that comes after it. So the ordering of that is important. Do warn me if I go a little bit too fast. I do try to be somewhat slow, but I might be going a little bit too fast. So next up is the content 4. In the content 4, I have prepared several files: bg-android, bg-desktop.gl, hello-android, and hello-desktop.gl. In this case, I wanted to show you that let's take bg-android and bg-desktop.gl. For example, we want to include the Android one for the Android platform and desktop.gl one for any other available platform. We can do that with the current system by simply doing the following. Here it is. So not only that, you can also rename the inclusion to whatever name you want. And in these cases, you probably do want to rename it to the same name. So when you load the content in your game, it will load it with the. You can just specify that one name. So for Android, it's going to compile bg-android into background.xmb, and for all the other platforms, it's gonna compile bg-desktop.gl into background.xmb. The output path does need the .xmb, and that is to allow for changing of the extension itself. I'll come back to that in a moment. So if I try to compile this, it's gonna do it. It just compiled bg-desktop.gl, and if I go back to the folder, it created the single background.xmb. So one file compiled and one file included. From here, you might be actually asking yourself, what about if I wanted to make an entire system so you can just dash platform for your resources and immediately include it just for that specific platform? And with this system, you can do something like that as well. Here is an example code. So what does this one do? Well, we have a regex rule to search for underscore platform. And for every single time a file path matches it, it calls the output path function, which does the following. It replaces the underscore platform with an empty string, so we want to remove it. Then, if our file path is bg.png, we rename it to background.png because we wanted to rename that. And lastly, we return the file path. Now, the output path is supposed to add the .xmb. You can technically override that behavior if you wanted to. However, by default, there is a function provided that does this for you and changes the extension to .xmb at the end with the default output path in the content info. So if I run this here now, it will compile the two files. So the hello_desktop.gl and the bg-desktop.gl.png. And the two output files it created are background and hello xmb files. Lastly is what if you have extensions which are unknown to the content system? Because so far I've been using extensions known by the content system and that it knows how to handle. So I have created a hello.asd file, which is actually a PNG file. I know it's a PNG, but nothing else knows it's a PNG. So how do we work with that? First, let me just change the content folder it's pointing to the fifth sample. And we can, to showcase that it actually does not know what it is, I can simply try to include it. So here, I just try to include the file with the extension .asd. And if I try to run it, it will complain about no importer found. So to actually include it, you can, during includes, both the regex and normal ones, obviously, actually just specify that, yeah, it's a texture importer and yeah, it's a texture processor that we want to use. So now if we try to run it, it will know that it should use texture importer, texture processor, and yeah, there we go. It actually compiled the file. Another thing that you might be used to using from the NGCB editor is changing the properties of stuff. So what if we want to change the clear color or something? So we can just simply actually pass the properties here. When you're passing the importer or processor, you can just pass the properties you want as well. So now it compiled it with the specified color key color. It's a mouthful. Yes, this is mostly how the system functions. Now, this, as I mentioned before, gives us several advantages. And one of the things that I was gonna mention before is that right now the content system, first and foremost, if you're referencing external assemblies, you do probably come into a lot of troubles with doing that with the current system. Here, it's just a normal reference, a normal NuGet. So any custom content importer slash processor can be easily be referenced as a NuGet package. Another thing is, let me showcase you something. So here, I'll change back to the content one. That's the Platformer 2D sample project. Here I will change the inclusion back to the first one I showcased. So all we want to do is just include everything and copy over the text files. Now, to showcase this, one last thing is needed, and that is to enable the server option. By default, when you run the compiler, it runs in the compilation mode. However, there is also a server mode available. The server mode functions exactly as you would expect. It starts a server and it's listening for any content compilation requests. Now, let me go over to the MonoGame.sample. Here is the Platformer 2D desktop GL project. I will delete the content folder. And now we have no content for the Platformer 2D. Now I shall switch us over to Platformer 2D. All you need to do in order to use the server mode is just start the server. There is no configuration on the game side unless you need to change the port. As you can see, once I started the game, and it started on the other screen, of course, it immediately requested compilation of a lot of resources. This is game requesting the compilation, not the project itself. If I check over the compiled content, for example, levels, you'll notice only one of the levels actually got copied over because the game only requested that one singular level. They are free. So if I were to, let me put it here. If I were to finish this level, the game will request more content. It will compile all the extra needed content. As you can see, another level got copied over and we're ready to go. This means that any for this goes for all the platforms. So this is not just Windows, but for any platform, you no longer have to deploy all the content. You can instead just deploy the game and let the content server actually deploy the needed content you need for the debugging purposes at that moment. It should save a bit on the coding and compilation of stuff, as it no longer needs to compile all the content. Lastly, the thing, well, probably should have said it before this one because this one is the more interesting one, is you can override the behavior of the collect content if the content needs to be rebuilt, as I mentioned before. For some projects, this might be very useful, as by default right now MonoGame would always use its own system for deciding whether stuff needs to be rebuilt. I believe this is all I wanted to showcase in regards to the new content system. Simon, if you want to take it away. Oh, also, if anybody has any questions, now's the time to ask them.
Yep, I'm going to probably guess there's going to be a lot of questions because, when I was looking at this was, I was wild, especially with the content server. So I'm going to say let's enable chat so we can actually see the chat. If I can do this without breaking everything again, which would be even better, because Discord hides all the numbers. Oh, so okay, so as you can see, all the funds and all the support we get from MonoGame goes into improving MonoGame, MonoGame's focus obviously is building the platform, the frameworks, and all the native compilations to ensure the fact that the same API you write for all your games works everywhere. And now we're also attacking one of our frenemies, really, the content pipeline, because love it or hate it, people never sure. But our recommendation is always to use it simply because the content pipeline saves you lots of pain and hassles later on. I think Tom's talked our ear off on numerous occasions about when they're migrating games or porting games over to consoles or to dedicated platforms. Content is the by far number one biggest pain because of how different platforms handle it. If you don't prepare for it, you're going to have more pain later. And this is just another gigantic leap forward from a content pipeline perspective, because now we're almost separating out content into its own project for you to build, twist, change, do what you want, but while still retaining a lot of the power that is in the content pipeline. So be able to write your own processors and importers to be able to construct, twist, change how your raw content then makes it into a game. A lot of projects write huge XML files for the configuration, which changes how things work, and you can adapt this to different platforms. So, right, okay. So,
okay, I have checked the questions, so let me answer a couple of them. Time to deprecate MGCB editor. Very much so, I hope. I do not like the MGCB editor, even though I wrote so much of it. The other one is... I will read the entire question so there is no confusion. At this point, you just delete the dot and x and b, then the server will compile the change source, I imagine. Yes, the server keeps its own set of content compilation stuff, so in the output folder. It's set up in the arguments where it's actually specifying the output folder. So if I delete any of the resources, it will actually recompile the resource. Though in case it already exists, it can just send you the existing resource. So it's responsible for keeping track of how new the resource is and should it be resent. Another thing is, yes, in regards to the idea, the hot reload is the goal here. It would be very useful if you could change the textures and see them applied in game without having to restart it. For the version 1.0, the hot reload will not be a priority. It's more of to put out the content server and the new content compilation stuff with the code. But afterward, the next step will be trying to get the hot reload right. Another question is the new content system, the thing moved. Is the new system designed to wrap over the same content pipeline project? No, the new system is not using any of the old content pipeline. I mean, it's using the importers and processors, but it's not using the MGCB editor related stuff. So it's fresh new stuff. It's not wrapping around the content.mgcb file. It's not using MGCB. It is using the MonoGame.framework.content.pipeline, but that's for the texture importer, texture processor, importer processor. Everything you already have will continue working in here. Nothing changes there. The MGCB will continue to exist side by side with this for the foreseeable future. We will not be hexing it anytime soon, as quite a lot of projects probably already depend on it. But depending on how much people like the new system or don't like, we'll decide on if we want to hex MGCB down the line. But it will not happen for anytime soon. How does it set platforms? Yes, the arguments. Right now, it's just filling up these structs with the arguments passed to. So the run can pass the args. That's the string array args. And instead of you filling up the structure manually here, you can just get it from the command line. So if the project is invoked from the well, from the command line or any other way, you can pass the platform you wish to compile the content for and specify the output directory to your liking, with or without appending platform or profile or whatever you want to the output folder. I guess I answered all of the questions that are available thus far. Simon, you may.
Well, I'll have a couple.
Oh,
Go.
So, does this change any of the pipeline processors or
No.
importers?
No changes to the importer and processors, and this can be done side by side with our native content pipeline bounties. Neither impacts the other one.
Okay.
There are really no changes to any of the existing content stuff. The only thing I did do, however, is enable the nullable types, so I can more easily avoid null reference exceptions,
Sure.
which somebody could go over the project and fix the warnings that enabling that causes, but nothing changed.
Okay.
In regards
what's
to,
our release timeline?
well, I would say I'm looking to release it before the next MonoGame meeting. So
Okay.
there aren't that many stuff left to fix up. It's getting the wildcard rule functional and getting the check needs rebuild
Mhm.
to be handling all of the cases. It is a little bit tricky in case of the server to handle some cases, and but that's what we will be discussing.
Right. And I guess all this
like-
functionality lives in the existing content pipeline DLL itself.
Yes, all of this exists in the existing DLL. The only difference is I've put our namespace instead of the Microsoft.xna.framework namespace.
Sure.
So that there is no confusion about the usage of it. These classes are not available in XNA, so I thought might as well use our namespace for it.
Right.
I suppose one question I did have, which I didn't ask earlier, Harry, so I apologise, is that one of the common issues with the MGCB is when content pipeline and importers go wrong or they cause exceptions. So what, if any, improvements will the new completely project-based approach do for actually catching exceptions for when you're building processors and importers?
Well, nothing really. There is nothing I can do about that system because the way
it's a case of if you could run the old editor in debug, you'd have to download the source and things like that. But
oh yes,
source,
yeah, you will. Yes, you will actually, if you reference your project, you will actually catch exactly where the exception is, and it doesn't require anything special for you to catch them. For example,
Is the logging all the same as the MGCB logging system? It's depending on the same systems, I assume.
yes, I intentionally disabled it here because just easier to showcase stuff instead of using the well, not MGCB logging. It doesn't use MGCB logging. It's using the same XNA logger system. All the importer and processors pass the logger thing. And it is using that. I do have it disabled, so it doesn't show me anything for this. But yeah, the same. That part is the same. I could throw an exception here in the texture importer. Hopefully it will not complain about not about having code which is not referenced. And let me just disable it to not be a server project. And if I run it, give it a moment, the texture importer will immediately complain. There we go. So you get nice little exception catching without any annoyances from the MGCB.
1000% improved my process of if I've got some content which is causing errors in import and it's causing issues, you're going to see the exceptions without having to jump through so many hoops to find out what's gone wrong.
That's definitely true.
In that, in particular, if you run it from the debugger.
Yes. If you don't run it from the debugger, you won't catch anything.
Yeah, I mean, you'll just get whatever logging output it does normally, which it has no GUI. So if you ran it via, like, I guess some people would end up doing is they do it just like the pipeline projects run now, where it's a file in your project. When you build your game, it runs the content pipeline to build your content. So this would do the same thing, except it'd be running your custom executable to build your content, or with this embedding server thing, right? So you would see it at either when you hit F5 to start your game, you'd see errors at that point,
In
or
case the server fails to build something or copy something, the
right.
game will show a file not found exception, while the server will show what the actual exception
Mhm.
is, why it failed to process the request of the client.
Right.
Now that you mention it, I should probably pass a failed reason back to the client to showcase, because it can actually tell you, hey, the server actually failed because of this and this, and I mean, I can send the information back. Right now I'm just sending either the
Right.
file or nothing.
Right. How are the server and the client communicating?
That's for discussion. Right now it's the HTTP listener and the client,
Mhm.
because it's very simple to implement, and the client
Right.
is the one always making the request. The server is never making a request to the client. But
Right.
for
I
the
mean, that sounds like a
audio,
2.0. Sounds like a 2.0 feature
Yeah, I
to
mean,
talk about
this is
that
only a
eventually.
development-only feature, Tom. So you wouldn't run this in a
Right.
live environment. It's just for when you're building and
Well,
testing and
no,
debugging.
right. I'm just thinking of other cases like, what if my game is running on a console sitting next to me? It's not on the same physical PC, right?
yes,
Or I'm trying to deploy content to my Android device, while I'm testing, like things like
yes,
that,
no, no, no.
right?
I already handled that. You need to be connected to the same network. You just need to know the IP address of your host machine,
Right.
and you can connect the Android, for example, client back to it to
Right, but there's still
build.
the delivery problem, right? Like the pipeline might get hey, you need to build this content. The pipeline builds that content and puts it in that location, but that location might not be readable by the client, right? Because the
No,
client is a separate
it's
device,
no. It's
potentially.
sending the entire. So the way it works is
Mhm.
when it requires some content to be built in the title container thingy, whenever it tries to read an asset and it checks that that file does not exist, it tries to communicate with the server. When it communicates with the server, all it does is just sends one HTTP client request requesting that specific resource. For the response message that it receives, it's the actual resource, so in the entire file. All it then does is saves that stream to the appropriate location where it expected that file to be, and then continues with the reading of the file. It's actually sending the entire file back.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I mean, that's good for that purpose, right?
I
I
don't
mean,
know why
that'll
I'm
be a whole
explaining
other
when
project. What is that?
I said I don't know why I'm explaining when I can just show you.
Sure.
It's not very complicated. The only thing is
Right.
I need to grab relative path, and I hardcoded the
Right.
content. This is the only to do left.
Right. I mean, there are more complications to deal with here. So this won't be something that will solve everything, immediately. Like on console, you can't just write it to the same place your other content is potentially. So you have
Yes,
to
you
put it
would
to a
need
temporary
to.
location and read it.
Yeah,
So there are more complications to deal with, but
but
for 1.0, this is good.
that's for the different implementation of the title container, because the title container is implemented differently on different platforms. This one handles
Right.
the public platforms, but for the consoles, they will have their own
Yeah.
method calls. And yeah, as you mentioned, depending on the platform, how it handles it. Aristotle asked, is there any changes needed to the custom content importers or processors? The answer is no. You need to change nothing. You can just reference it the same way from here as you did from the MGCB editor. This changes nothing about how the importer processor system works. It's just is layer on top for actually calling everything.
Right.
Mm.
Yep. I think this is one of
Oh,
those things where we expect to see a lot more as we roll up to when they're like the first preview release of this and having it in source and available to use. This is where we lean on our community for feedback, support, testing, and then planning the future roadmap for what features can be done on. I mean, Harry's already got a long, a long list of things he wants to add, but this is where everyone benefits. This is why MonoGame, as an open source project, moves along strides and bounds, because our community is there to help guide us in the right direction, to offer us fixes, changes, write our documentation. But I expect more over this next month about this as we build up to the excitement of actually getting that first preview release, and then hopefully the V1, which hopefully should be a quick transition.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly even more exciting times ahead, and we're pushing down as hard as we can and getting these things working. So I think Chris also asked earlier about the preview releases. Yes, we're fully aware we're still lacking behind on that, but there's an active task right this moment that's going to sort of revitalize our pipelines and our release process. So expect more very soon, given the fact that I'm the one who's actually having to do it now. So I've got dedicated time to the project now to actually get on with these things so we can get moving faster. That includes things like if you've got urgent PRs or issues that need doing, just let the team know, and we're getting on it. We're investing more into try and make MonoGame move faster in response to everyone's demands and queries. And if there's something you're missing or lacking, or you just want to chat, I'm not going to say we're going to start having Calendly updates, because that might be crazy, but we can schedule and pen things that the community feeds back to us into the next board meetings, go through a whole raft of discussion to come with decisions, and then the next open hours is when we'll feed that back to you. So keeping that continual loop of communication with what everyone needs. When I still want to see a nice presentation from Tom about how do you port games, but there's the public version of that where we can actually talk about things.
Yeah, that's a little. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely things to talk about.
There are a couple more questions that came up. So will this be in the upcoming release? Not in the next, the next one, the 3.8.3, but probably in the 3.8.4. As I'll submit the code once the 3.8.3 is out, as it's definitely gonna need some testing. The stuff that's left for the 3.8.3 release is just one bounty, the thing we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. After the async replacement, there is a bug with the ship model not getting properly rendered on the samples. It's using a custom importer and processor, and if anybody has time to dig into it, there is a bounty available to make your times worth. It shouldn't be anything too complex, but just annoying to find. And where's the source code? Oh, yeah, locally I will commit it eventually. Yeah. I probably should have made commits thus far. Now that I think about it, just working on the without committing or pushing is making me paranoid. Yeah, that's all for the questions. Sorry, Tom, take it away.
If you want to help us to get 3.8.3 over the line, that bounty's there calling for your name for anyone who wants to jump in, because it's a rather critical sort of regression issue. It's something that works in XNA, but it's not working in MonoGame, and it just needs a bit of love and attention. And once that's done, 3.8.3 is out. So jump in. Right, so I suppose we're getting close to wrapping up this lovely month's open hours. I've lost all.
Any other questions?
Yes, let's go. So if anyone else got more questions or things they want to raise for the team this month. Just checking YouTube. No more coming in from YouTube. Although I think YouTube's going quiet now. Everyone wants to come onto the Discord. Looks like we're actually we might finish on time or a little bit early this month, Tom. It's very impressive.
Oh no.
Yeah, just getting thanks. Everyone's. I think if we just stunned Harry, you've actually stunned everyone. You stunned everyone to silence with the vision of the future.
No, it's great.
There we go. Okay,
Yay.
well, in that case, we'll call it to an end. And we thank everyone for their time. Comments and everything else, welcome, either in the Open House chat or in the community channel via the mods, and they shall get hold of us or raise a future feature request for what you need doing. But everyone's getting ready to start testing the next new things, and this is arguably only the beginning, because as we're now starting to make big traction on a lot of the big key feature things like the native platform, getting more DX12 and Vulkan ready, these are all things which they're ready for everyone to start picking up and start running and testing with. They're going to need some love, and but we're certainly accelerating as promised. Right, okay, in which case,
Cool.
I think we shall draw this month to a close, and we shall catch you all on the next session.
Bye all.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.